now Chancellor Merz and his cabinet have approved plans to boost recruitment for the German armed forces, the Bundeswehr. The aim is to expand the military in case of aggression from Russia. NATO estimates that Germany would need armed forces of more than 250,000 to withstand a Russian attack. Current troop numbers are well short of that. So here's what the cabinet's approved. From 2026, all 18-year-old Germans will be sent an online questionnaire asking if they're interested in joining the military. Completing the form would be compulsory for men and voluntary for women. After that, the Bundeswehr would invite suitable candidates to come forward for basic training. If the recruitment drive doesn't work, then conscription could be reintroduced for the first time since 2011. Parliament would need to approve the plan before it comes into force. The question of whether Germany could, or indeed should, force young people to potentially put themselves in harm's way has been hotly debated. Here's Defence Minister Boris Pistorius.
Unlike before, each and every member of the young generation will have to think about the question, what can I and what do I want to contribute to the security of the country in which I live? Do I care? Do I want to take responsibility, and in what way? Not only do we need a well-equipped military force, we've been working on that for the past 2.5 years, we also need a fully staffed military. Only then will we have a truly credible deterrence to counter Russia.
Patrick Zensberg is president of the German Armed Forces Reservist Association. He's also a former member of parliament for the Christian Democrats. Welcome to DW. Back in 2011, when you were a member of parliament, you were the only member of your party, the Christian Democrats, to vote against suspending compulsory military service. And you warned then that getting rid of it was a mistake. So do you now think you've been proved right?
I think so, because at that time we destroyed a lot of structures. We stopped the conscription, we stopped using all the structures, we destroyed the structures nearly, and we said we are surrounded by friends, we can just see peace on the horizon, we don't need such a huge military anymore, and we shrink the army a lot. And now we see that we need the structures back, we need the size of the military back. Yes, it was a mistake 2011 to suspend it.
Do you think, though, that even if Germany still had that, would Germany's armed forces still be up to the task? Would there still be the manpower to fulfill its NATO obligations?
Yeah, we would be much larger.
Yeah.
And we still benefit from the past because we have lots of reservists that go back to the old time of conscription. We have a lot of benefits because we have knowledge for a lot of people in the civil society.
Institutional memory.
Yes. So we have it, and we have still the people. As reservists, we have a civil society that is resilient, more resilient than countries who never had it.
Right. And should this... I mean, it's important to remember for non-Germans that it's actually still in the Constitution, isn't it? This was a suspension.
Yes.
Conscription is in the Constitution, so this was a suspension. Should it apply to women as well?
So it is still in the Constitution, just for men. It was suspended by a simple act by the majority of the members of the parliament, so it can be activated again by a simple majority of the members of the parliament, but just for men. The Constitution speaks just man has the obligation.
Okay.
So if we want men and women to have the obligation to do a military service, we have to change the Constitution, and there we need a higher majority.
And do you think that women should also have this obligation imposed on them?
My personal opinion is yes, and I would suggest we should have a broad discussion in the society. I would ask the people of our country, should women do the service too or not? I would give the question back to the society, and then we have a broad discussion in the society, and that's important for such a mandatory service.
The government's plan is initially voluntary military service to strengthen armed service numbers. Do you think that will be sufficient to cover the gap?
We're doing a first step. We are sending a questionnaire to a whole year of young people. Man has to answer. Women can, but don't have to. So we expect round about 5,000 young people joining the military additionally because of this questionnaire. 5,000.
Right.
The gap now 2025, after the NATO summit in summer, is 80,000. We're having 180,000 soldiers. We need 260,000. So 5,000 per year would not fill the gap, from my opinion.
Okay, so you think that compulsory conscription is going to come?
Yes, I think so. And there's a second important issue with it. We need a society, we need a civil society that can fight if it's needed to defend the country, and we don't create reservists without such a service.
Young people, though, are already having a hard time. They're having a hard time finding a job, dealing with skyrocketing costs of living and high rents. Now they're being asked, or maybe even told, to take time out and serve in the military. How is that a good deal for them?
I think it's also a chance. First thing is, the former generation already did it. Now we're asking the young generation to do the service too, and we should not talk about if, we should talk about how we create the service, if it's a benefit. If you can learn, for example, from modules for later education, if you can collect ECTS points for studies that will follow afterwards. So the question for me is that can we create a service that's not just a benefit for the country, that is a benefit for young people?
That would be your sell. This is not just a duty, it's also an opportunity.
Yes, I think so.
So when you... Let me just press you on this. So now young people are having a hard time. In the future, young people are going to be having a hard time. The country has a failing pension system, rising health insurance contributions because of increasing numbers of older people like me, and I dare say you. It does seem like this is just another example of older generations screwing over the young.
I think all generations had hard times. Remember the generation after the Second World War. Remember the generations in the 70s. Remember generations where we had high numbers of unemployed people. So now a new generation will take over with all the duties and also all responsibility. Also, for example, to secure peace. It's in their hands. And I think such a service is important to secure peace for the country, also in next generations.
So before... The gap between the voluntary, we see how the voluntary goes, and then, OK, we're not getting enough numbers, we now need to talk about compulsory. The national conversation that needs to happen before you take that step, how do you think that's going to go down? How do you think that young people in 2026, 27 are going to look are going to view the idea of forced military service?
I think so, not very different than younger people in the 70s, in the 80s, in the 90s, when already young people had to do the service. The question is,
Well, how was that? Because, you know, we all weren't here. Well, certainly on this side of the table, we weren't here. So how was that conversation then?
I think a lot of young ones didn't want to go there. They had to go, and then in each family we had discussions about how was the week, how was the military. Everybody in Germany talked about military because one in the family was in the military. Right. So it is also a control of the society above the military. So in the end, I think not a lot of people loved it, but everybody did it. And in the end, most of the society accepted it as something that created a common feeling of a society, that created a feeling of being together, and young people learned something. It was not loved, but it was not hated.
OK, thanks for talking.
That would be my description.
Thank you for talking us through that so clearly. Patrick Zensberg, President of the German Armed Forces Reservists Association. Thank you.
Thank you.